Okay. Your lighting is way better than mine. That's okay.
TJ, can you hear me? What's the meeting passcode?
Yeah, I could hear you, and the meeting passcode is, hold on, Russ is looking it up.
Who needs it?
Who needs it?
Somebody just emailed me and asked,
Somebody just emailed her and asked.
said that they
Oh, I
can't.
think. Hold on, I think it gives it to you when you,
Because the
Right.
meeting passcode wasn't right for
Sure.
me either.
Here, I'll give it to her. I mean, I don't know why, but yeah, I just put it in there.
He said he just sent it to you in chat.
Okay. And. Okay. Let me get this thing pulled up here. TJ, do you want me to put a plug in about Dreammaker?
Yes, please.
Okay, and that starts September 8th.
Um,
yes.
yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. Okay.
Should have brought you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started as people start to kind of continue to log on. So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this week's Small Business Essential webinar. Today's topic is turning your hobby into your hustle. So my name is Jordan Lloyd. I'm the Client Services Coordinator for the Iowa Center. And this is brought in part by the Iowa Center's Women's Business Center. And the Iowa Center's Women's Business Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration. So just want to say thank you to them for making this happen. After today's webinar, you will all receive an email from my colleague Katie, thanking you for attending today's session, some information on how to connect to our speaker, as well as a form to complete. Please do us a big favor, take some time to fill that survey form out. This information allows us to continue providing free educational programming for small business owners in Iowa like yourselves. So now go ahead and take some time to locate the chat function on your Zoom screen. So you can join in conversation by asking questions or adding comments as Amanda's giving her spiel. Also, feel free to introduce yourselves and your business idea that you're kind of toying around with in the chat. And include your website or social media page that we can visit and learn more about your business, you and your network. So So I'm gonna turn it over to our speaker, Amanda. I just first want to say, Amanda, thanks so much for taking your time to share such valuable information with our audience. And thank you to the audience for being here and engaging in some questions and listening to Amanda. So I'm going to let Amanda Elliott introduce herself. She's from Letters from Elliott. And with that being said, Amanda, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Jordan. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I know it's kind of in the middle of the day, but I think it's gonna hopefully be worth it over your lunch hour here. I want to also thank Jordan for reaching out and setting me up with this. I think it's a cool opportunity for me and to share my information with you. And also thanking the Iowa Center for Economic Success as well. Yes, please introduce yourself in the chat. I'll try to take a look at it. I'd love to know your name, where you're from across Iowa, and what your business, small business, or your hobby that you're looking to turn into a hustle is. Jordan introduced me very well. I'll give you a little bit more information. My name is Amanda Elliott, and I am the business owner and artist behind Letters from Elliott. I do lots of different types of lettering and calligraphy, and dabble as well as into engraving and some illustration work as well. I've always loved calligraphy. Oh, and I'm located in Muscatine also. So small town, Southeast Iowa. And we'll talk more about that small town mindset in a little bit. So my background is not in art. I did not go to art school. I always had a passion for art and calligraphy. I think it kind of goes back. My uncle is also a professional calligrapher, so I kind of had some insight and saw what he was doing and was always really impressed. And he was actually the first person to give me a calligraphy set with pens and stuff. So probably started something back when I was about 10 years old. I went to Iowa State. I decided, instead of going to art school, which I debated about, I decided to get my degree in elementary education. And I was in the classroom at Louisa Muscatine for 5 years. I taught 4th grade for 5 years. Within that time, I decided to go back to school and get my master's. I went back to the University of Iowa to get my master's in library and information science. And so I've been the acting librarian for the last 5 years. So I've been in the classroom for about 12 years total. And I've taken a step back. Now I'm doing a lot more subbing. I shouldn't say a lot more subbing, some subbing when my schedule allows it, which I still enjoy doing that and being a part of the education system. So, but in there somewhere about 2015, I started getting really passionate. I think it started when I saw a lot of other calligraphers posting their work on Instagram, and I became inspired to get really good at it. So I started practicing. It was every single night I was sitting in front of the TV just with my sketchbook, practicing lettering, and it did not start pretty at all. So a lot of practice went into kind of thinking about starting to offer my work for money, or for friends and family at least, and doing small project as gifts. You know, if somebody had a baby, I could make a sign for them or something, and really trying to practice. And before I took the leap in 2017, at the end of 2017, and started a simple Facebook page and named it Letters from Elliott. And that's kind of how it started. I got some really big opportunities right at the beginning. People, you know, kind of, and just luck also. I ended up doing some signage at a local coffee shop called the Coffee Belt, and it turned out great. And I don't even know how I did it. Honestly, I kind of blacked out, I say, because it took like 14 hours and I had to do it over a 24-hour period because they wanted the signage up the next day. So it was a whole thing, but it turned out really well, and it opened a lot of doors for me. And I was able to say, oh, you know, you could see my work at the Coffee Belt. And there's been some other people that have really given me some opportunities to get my name out there, get my face out there, and really start to grow my business pretty quickly. At that point, it was important for me to develop branding behind my name. So I didn't just have a Facebook page anymore. I needed to have a logo, a professional logo. I needed a website. I needed high quality pictures for that website. And really started to take time to find my style and what my brand was going to look like. There's some challenges with that also. I mean, as a designer and an artist, I was able to do my own logo and I built my own website because I have some background in that through my library job. So depending on your skill set and what you are comfortable doing, that can be easier or harder, but I was able to do it myself. But it is still a challenge because sometimes, for instance, my brand is very muted colors, really modern, clean, classic. And sometimes I just want to use really bright colors and it just doesn't fit with my brand. So I have to find ways to make that work. So thinking about that and thinking about how important it is to have a contract, especially as a freelancer and especially as someone providing a service. Both parties, I think, it's their best interest to be protected. So the client gets a contract and knows what to expect from you. And if anything should happen, the terms should be in your contract and it shouldn't be too much of an issue. So developing that, starting to think about, what kind of estimating software and invoicing software to buy, and really starting to hone in on branding. And then in 2020, someone on Instagram reached out to me. She was a fellow calligrapher, but she was starting a business coaching program. And I took the leap and said, yeah, this sounds great. And at that point, I just thought it'd be nice to have another calligrapher to bounce ideas off of. But it's turned into so much more than that. I am in a group. It started with 9 of us. We're in this kind of class, this business class together, all calligraphers and engravers. It's grown to about 30 of us now. But it's great because it allows a freelancer like myself who works by themselves and does everything that I need to do to run my small business. I have a community of fellow calligraphers and engravers that I can bounce ideas off of. We talk about pricing all the time. And they're also great for referrals. So I've gotten jobs through them based on my location or based on, what I'm good at, and vice versa. I'll refer them as well. And then goal setting was a big part of it. Talking about what you wanted your business to look like in the future and taking steps to get there. I think having a coach and having a support system of people that know exactly what's going on and how you're doing the same thing as you was really big for me, and something I hadn't really, we all have big dreams and big goals, but making a plan to get there was a big one for me. And the biggest thing is being able to bounce pricing off of people, because almost every single job I do is different. So I have to price according to the materials it's going to take me to purchase it, or if I have to purchase materials or provide them. It's just every single job is different. So I have to take into account so many different things for each different job, and don't really have a set list. I have an idea in my head of how much I want to make an hour. But it's not always just that. So being able to kind of take the time to bounce ideas off people is great. And so if you can find your community of people, whether it's a Facebook group, or in this case, it started on Instagram, that kind of thing, it's really, really important, I think. And they also taught me to know my worth. Currently, it's still a challenge, undervalue myself all the time, and really trying to remember the time and the skill that it takes me to do the work that I do, and to not devalue myself. So that's always a challenge. I think it's always going to be about having that group behind you, supporting you and telling you, no, you're worth $25 an hour, $65 an hour, or whatever it may be. And they're charging the same thing. So it's kind of, you're not, pricing yourself out of a job or into a job or whatever. And then at this point, with the encouragement of my group, setting a minimum price for projects. So there are some exceptions to that. I try to keep a minimum a job offer at $50. So I'm not going to take jobs that are less than $50. There's some exceptions. The products that I sell on my website, you can buy a sticker for $3. Of course, I'm not going to make you buy $50 worth of stickers. So some of my products, some of the things that I do at Christmas, like ornaments and things like that, I don't have a minimum order. And pumpkins. I do personalization for pumpkins in the fall, and I don't charge a minimum for those either. I think a minimum order amount has really helped me find my clientele and really focus my time and energy on what I want to be doing. I don't want to be spending a lot of time doing small little projects and making $5-6 here and there. And I also kind of live by the motto, full price or free. I do a lot of work pro bono. I do a lot of work for friends and family for free. I do not charge them at all. But on the flip side of that, I do not give discounts at all, ever. And that is, as for what I do, and if you make anything or you're doing anything as far as crafting or using your time and talent and skill to do something, I think that when you give a discount, that says, well, that's what it's really worth then. Like, why aren't you just charging that all the time? So if I'm going to do something for friends and family, if they don't offer to pay full price, or if I don't offer it as a gift, it's probably not happening. And I definitely do a lot of work with, if a charity is looking for a logo, I do it pro bono. Stuff like that. So I try to give back as much as possible and try to even that out. Next, I want to kind of talk about some of the things that I learned as a small business owner, as a creative freelancer. And I think that it can help others, and it's not just specific to calligraphy or to art either. I think that it's important as small business owners, or as somebody who's looking to take their hobby and take it into the next level and start charging for their work, or maybe potentially, quitting your day job to move full time into your hobby or something. It's really important that you think about what your niche is. And it's still a challenge for me. It's very hard for me to say no to a project that comes through. As a freelancer, you always want jobs coming in. You always want to be making money. The paycheck isn't always steady. So for me, it was deciding what's most important and how I want to spend my time and what my energy looked like. And like I said, it's still a challenge for me. I don't like to tell people no, but I've tried to use referrals instead. So instead of just telling somebody no, I'll say, that might not be the best project for me, explain kind of why. Maybe it's out of my skill set. Maybe it's something I just don't have a lot of knowledge or confidence in doing for someone. And then I have a group of people or people in mind that I can refer them to. So I've been doing that using referrals. But it's still a challenge. I still work on that all the time. And not everything that you try will be successful. I've had products and ideas that I've had that I've put out there that I thought would be a huge success and make a ton of money and go viral or whatever it would be, and nothing. And then something that I spent 5 minutes on could potentially be my biggest seller, which I'm specifically thinking of 2 things. So I did some calligraphy classes, teaching people how to do hand lettering and calligraphy, which I still offer. But I thought that was going to be something that I would be doing all the time. It's just not the case. I get requests to do it every once in a while, but then we just don't have a lot of people signing up, or we have to cancel. So, and part of that's probably the way that I'm marketing, my fault, but teaching classes is something I thought that my background's in teaching. I made a workbook. I thought this is going to be something I'm doing every weekend, and that's just not the case. But on the flip side, I drew a watermelon design with Muscatine, Iowa on it because we're famous for our watermelons. And that design took me 10 minutes total, probably on my iPad. And it is, I keep selling it. I have stickers, I have magnets, I have t-shirts, I have mugs. The Chamber of Commerce here in Muscatine carries it. I can't keep them in stock. People in Muscatine just love it. So not everything that you try is going to be a success. And unfortunately, a lot of times the things that you think are going to be just aren't, and vice versa. So just try new things and see what happens. And that's kind of, I think, how you find what's going to work and what's going to work for your clientele. And for me, it was also figuring out that I didn't want to do vendor events every weekend. I didn't want to sit at a farmer's market on Saturday or Sunday or be paying to go to these vendor events every weekend for multiple reasons. One being, it's really difficult for me to do that because if I'm at an event like that, my head is usually down because I'm lettering. So I have to bring somebody along with me to kind of connect, to make eye contact with people, let them know what we're doing. Luckily, I have a friend that does some of those events with me and lets me do it if I decide to do them. But instead of doing those vendor events, my focus, I like to do live calligraphy events. So people hire me to come in, and maybe it's, I've worked for several brands doing like engraving on bottles, or I recently worked with Han lettering on bags for their guests that were coming through their showroom. So that was more of what I wanted to focus on. I made a couple t-shirt designs, which really did take off, but I realized really quickly that I didn't want an inventory of t-shirts and have to make them all. And I didn't want to be in the t-shirt business. So I still have my t-shirt designs. I can make them, but I outsource the actual inventory part and the printing. So I don't have to do that. And it does cost some, obviously, but it's worth it to me to not have to carry a bajillion t-shirts here and make them also. And then you also have to think about who your ideal client is. And I think about it in the terms that I am not my ideal client. I'm married, I've gone to parties. I would never hire a calligrapher to address my envelopes. For one, I can do it myself, but also even if I couldn't, I would never pay $4 an envelope to have somebody print them for me. But I need people that want that to happen, and I need to find out how to find them and how to market to them. And they're out there. But that was a huge challenge too, is really trying to find who my clientele is. And it's difficult. It's really difficult because some people like $4 an envelope, no way. So I had to get used to rejection and people saying no or just ghosting me. But that was part of understanding that, no, I know my worth. I know what the going rate of these are. I'm not outpricing anybody else, those types of things, and just remaining confident in that the right person will find me and be willing to pay what I'm asking. And kind of going into that, just thinking about mindset. And that was probably the biggest, and still is the biggest takeaway I've had from hiring the business coach and being a part of the group of calligraphers and engravers. My business coach has helped so much just get me out of a negative mindset. And my negative mindset was, a lot of it was based on my location. So my business coach and almost all of the other calligraphers in my group are based on the coast. So they're in California or in New York or big cities, even just bigger cities. So I used my location as an excuse. I'm like, well, I'm just in the middle. I'm in Iowa. I'm in the Midwest. I'm in the middle. I'm in a small town in Iowa. So how could I ever, go full time doing calligraphy, or how could I ever make this bigger than it already is when I'm limited to this area? And really still undervaluing myself and not planning and setting goals for the future that I thought would definitely take me where I wanted to go and in the right direction, instead of just going in circles and not knowing what I'm doing. So the business coach, back to that, but the mindset is a big thing. And once I realized that my negative mindset was holding me back from all of these things and reaching my fullest potential, everything changed. And so this was probably 2021, early 2021, when everything started to change, when my mindset shifted. And I stopped using my small town as an excuse, started using it as an advantage. Like, hey, yeah, I don't want to be the go-to girl for all projects. Like I said, you need to find your niche, and I have a minimum order and things like that. But here in Muscatine, I'm able to do that a little bit. But I've also really focused on making a name for myself locally, but then also, why does your location have, for calligraphy, why does it matter? So I started freelancing on a website called Thumbtack. And it's kind of like, if you haven't heard of it, I describe it as like Angie's List, but for creatives and people that are offering different services than what Angie's List does. But it allows me to connect with people all over, and it allows you to set your zip code wherever you want. So on Thumbtack, I'm based out of Chicago. So I get all the inquiries that are coming in from Chicago. And of course, I have to be honest with them once we start communicating that I'm in Iowa, and, you know, we're matched because of different things, and that as long as they're willing to ship, or I spend a lot of time in Chicago also. So if the timing works out, you know, I'm happy to meet them or deliver or whatever it needs to be. So getting out of that, that mindset of, oh, I'm stuck in small town Iowa. Well, no, I'm really not. I'm willing to travel. I love to travel. And some of the tools that I use to promote my business and to freelance allow that to happen. So that's been a really big game changer for me. I've been able to do a lot more work all over the United States and actually the world through Thumbtack, and through marketing myself that way. I've started to be just shameless in self-promoting myself. I, for the longest time, even had trouble saying, when somebody asked me what I did, teacher was always the easiest to say. Sometimes I would say teacher, librarian. But it wasn't until very recently that I was able to call myself an artist or a calligrapher. And it's just that mindset thing. I just didn't think of myself as, it's the imposter syndrome, 100%. You just don't think that you're good enough to call yourself that. But I'm really trying. That's still something I'm working on, but just shameless promoting and marketing, reaching out to people that I want to work with. For instance, Jordan and I are part of a wedding event. I saw that Jordan was a part of it. I was like, hey, I didn't know about this. Can you give me the number or the name of the number of the people I'd love to offer my services? So I'll be there on Sunday, just because I sent an email saying, hey, do you don't have a calligraphy as a vendor at this wedding expo? I'd love to be that person. So kind of shameless, reaching out, self-promoting, and learning that there's sometimes I don't hear back from people, or I hear, no, you know, we don't have that in our budget right now, or whatever it is. Like I talked about before, setting a minimum, at least some sort of an idea of a minimum. I kind of hover between $50 and $75, depending on what they're asking me to do. I'll go down to 50. I really like to charge 75 per order if I can. And I don't negotiate. I don't negotiate my prices at all. And I kind of have an email template that I plug in if somebody tries to do that, and just explaining that my time, my skill, the time that I took to get that skill is worth X amount, and explain those things to them. And just confidence is key on that. And I say that knowing that I am not confident every time I send it. I'm thinking like shaking, gonna press the send button. But just the more confident you seem, the more serious people take you, I think, especially as a woman in business, I think too. And in the future, so goal setting is one of the things I think is really important. In the future, I would really like to learn more lettering styles. I kind of focus on my modern calligraphy right now. I would love to learn copperplate, which is a a very specific style of lettering and has a lot of rules to it. You use a pointed pen with ink. And I've dabbled, but I of course love to do more. The watercolor, I've done some watercolors, I've done some murals. I would love to do more of that in the future. So really trying to take the next step into my business by reaching out to the people that I know. I know there's some blank walls in Muscatine that would look great with my murals on them. So here in the future, I think maybe for next summer, I'm going to start putting some feelers out there to see if anybody's interested in hiring me to do that. And then for me also, in May of 2021, I took a step back from teaching, and I think that was one of the hardest things I ever did, because I spent a lot of time and money on my background in education and my master's degree. And I think the question of when is the right time to quit your job and focus on your side hustle is different for everyone. Obviously for me, financials came into play. It probably would for most people. Had to figure out, what that was going to look like for our family. I also spent a solid year weighing pros and cons and trying to decide what was best. And I felt a lot of guilt also leaving school. So there was that. And also I had a support and encouragement from almost everyone around me to do what makes me happy. And art and calligraphy and running my own business and doing all the things that entails makes me really happy. And education was getting less and less so, just based on a lot of different factors, but I'm still able to be connected there, but really focus on my passion, which I think is important. And at school I was working, we all know teachers work more than their 40 hours a week. And I was too, and I was also, Letters from Elliott was growing. I had no time to do anything. I was always working. I was working at school from 8 to 4 or later, come home and grade papers or whatever I needed to do. And then I had to focus on Letters from Elliott projects. And it was growing pretty quickly. And I realized I need to make a decision here. And the flexibility was really important to me, to be able to use my time. I said I do some subbing, use my time, be able to do that, but also do more Letters from Elliott things and more live events and things like that as well. So May 2021, I took a step back. So it's been about 15 months or so. I decided to I keep glancing down here, I'm looking at my notes so I stay on track. The pros of the last 15 months, my mental and physical health has improved so much. Just working from home, I really enjoy it. I enjoy making my own schedule. I'm not a morning person, but I am a night person. So I always said if there was like a second shift school, that would be right up my alley, because I do not like getting up in the morning, but I'm really productive in the evening. So being able to do that has really helped. I've been able to travel in the last 15 months to 3 different states to do live events for different brands. And in 2021, I made the most money that I had since I started my business. So there's pros to the last 15 months and some of the challenges, of course, money. Being a freelancer is hard. You don't have a steady guaranteed paycheck coming in. So learning about that has been new and interesting, figuring out, of course, with all the raised prices and inflation, it hasn't been easy, but we're getting through it. Finding that work-life balance and realizing it's okay for me to sleep in if I'm productive in the evening. I feel guilty when I sleep till 9 o'clock or 9:30 or sometimes later. But I have a really good balance. So, I may get up later in the morning and working later into the evening, and that really works for me. And then just being a solo freelance business owner, small business owner, it's all you. And if you guys are doing that, you understand that you're the marketing person, you're the CEO, you're the designer, you're doing all the jobs, you're wearing all the hats. And that can be overwhelming, I think, for anyone at times, for sure. I talked a little bit about shameless self-promotion, so I'm going to take a minute to do that if you don't mind. I have in the course since about the beginning of 2018, I have been able now to have my products in 21 different retail locations in 10 states across the United States. I've shipped to 9 countries and 31 states in total. I've worked with brands, some Fortune 500 companies and some major brands across the United States like SpaceX, Pernod Ricard, Jefferson's Whiskey, Hahn Office Furniture, Ashley Furniture Home Stores, and next month I'll be in Chicago doing an event with high-end designer Tory Burch. So I'm super excited about and doing some engraving with perfume bottles for their guests at an event. So, and then just here recently, I was inducted as in 2022 into the Marquee Who's Who, which is kind of just a biographical index. And my nerdy librarian self was just very excited about them asking me to provide some biographical info to put in there. But it was quite an honor that I was recognized for that. And some of my goals in the future I'd really like to expand some of that wholesale, getting my art out there into stores and offering clients more. And I love doing live events. I love being able to travel and go all over to live events and meet new people and work for brands. It's so fun. I enjoy traveling anyway. So if I'm able to do it with work, it's even better. And a goal is hopefully this year I'm on track to make more than I did in 2021. So that's also kind of a goal of mine. I just want to thank everyone again for coming. That's kind of my spiel. I want to thank Jordan again for having me. I think this is a great resource for people, for Iowans and small business owners. I think it's awesome. And I really appreciate you having me. And if you guys have any questions, we can go over them, and I'm all ears. Oh, I can't hear you, Jordan.
I'm muted.
Okay.
It came up and it's like, you're muted, Jordan, stop talking. But I'll open it up to if any of our attendees have questions. If not, I have generated a couple questions I feel like would be good.
Okay.
So if you guys have questions, put them in the chat. If not, I'll ask Amanda a few things. So one of the things I really love that you said, Amanda, was, getting outside of that small town mindset, right? Of, yeah, sure, I can do a bunch of projects for the coffee shops in Muscatine and for, local weddings and different things like that. But you've done so many cool projects outside of not only Iowa, in Muscatine, but the whole United States, right? And you said you've got your products in multiple states. You do, I know, things for weddings in multiple states. So tell us a little bit about how do you, you got to get out of that small town mindset, but how do you do that? So how do you market yourself to those kinds of people, and how do they find you? Because I feel like that's a big struggle for people.
And and it continues. I feel like I've been more successful here in the past year with that. And I think it kind of builds on each other too. You get your word of mouth, and the more you put yourself out there, the more people have your business card, that type of thing. I think just thinking beyond my zip code or even this general area was probably the biggest block I had as a small business owner. And it took, and still takes, because it is still a challenge. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Juno. Okay. I'll mute that. Oh God. Okay.
One other small piece of information for everybody that Amanda didn't put in her backstory. She has a large dog named Juno
I have a German
with
Shepherd.
a large bark.
But she barks at everything. I wish I could show you. I'm in my office, my studio, it has windows all around. I put paper over the windows so she didn't see any dogs or anything to bark at while I was talking. Oh, she found a way, but she'll settle down. Anyway, Like I said, another thing that I did was I needed a business phone number. I didn't want to put my personal phone number out there. So I went to Google Voice and created a phone number, and I used 312 as the area code, which is the area code for Chicago. So having a Chicago phone number also has people are like, oh, Chicago. Yeah, okay. Well, not really, but yeah, it works. And not a lot of people have heard of Muscatine, Iowa. So not that I'm not proud to be from here or anything, just putting yourself out there as, hey, I'm willing to travel, if you are willing to travel. And all of the travel that I've done has been all expenses paid. Like I'm getting mileage, I'm getting a hotel, and I'm paying for meals, I guess. And then also putting my products on some wholesale websites like Fair and Abound are the two that I use. I have my greeting cards out there. I have some stickers out there. And that's been big into getting my products into little stores and boutiques because they're able to go on a website and click through makers like me and creators like me and they want small businesses in their small businesses. So that's been big too, for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I know you touched on those like bigger gigs. So like, the Han or the Ashley Home Store. I mean, maybe talk a little bit about the specific things you did or even the upcoming Tory Burch one. So maybe not only like, how do you get connected to those big things, right? But also, maybe a couple logistics for the people that don't know like what you've done there and some of those kind of unique projects.
Yeah, so I've been really lucky and some of them have just completely fallen into my lap. The job that I've done for SpaceX, I did an illustration for them for a group of, it's actually like the people in mission control. They wanted like their group wanted a design for some jackets they were having made. I had that, it was a connection from somebody in my lettering and engraving group that was like, hey, I don't do illustrations. And my boyfriend works at SpaceX and they're looking for somebody. And I'm like, I do illustrations, let me try. And I thought that they were like auditioning people. Like I thought multiple people were sending in their artwork. So I'm like, there's no way that they're going to pick my design. Well, I was the only, they were like, yeah, we love it. And I was the only one that sent them in anything because she just connected me with the right person. So that's been really cool. And Thumbtack is the freelancer website I'm on. I do have it set on there, so I'm willing to travel. My base is really big. And so some brands have reached out through that. Pernod Ricard, it's really hard to say, is a liquor distributing company and they own a ton of brands. One of them being Jefferson's Bourbon. So they hired me to go to Indiana and set up at a bunch of different stores and engrave Jefferson's Bourbon bottles for customers coming through. One was at like a whiskey event and the others were at like a grocery store. But I'd never been to Indiana, so I thought that was really cool. The Han furniture, that again kind of fell into my lap a little bit. That was the hometown one on that one because the reason somebody knew about me was because Han is based in Muscatine. Somebody had purchased something from me. They wanted to bring me to Chicago to an event that's called NeoCon, and it's a huge event for like commercial design. So office furniture, stuff like that. And Han has a showroom there and they were bringing hundreds of people through the showroom. They wanted to kind of elevate the guest experience a little bit and have me personalize these Han like dop kits or like makeup bags for people. And I did like 300 in one day. Like it was crazy, but it was a dream come true. I was looking, my view was the Chicago River. I love Chicago. I love spending time there. So I was pinching myself all day. And that was because I was a hometown person and they knew somebody knew and had purchased something from me. But both the Ashley Home Store and the Tory Burch job I have coming up, I don't know. I just got these emails. So I think though, I know about SEO. I know about when I built my website, that there's a certain certain things that you need to do to make sure that you're coming up on Google, that if somebody types in Iowa calligrapher, I want to be the first one. That type of thing, Midwest calligrapher, that I want to be at the top. So building my website and making sure that that SEO or that back page and the hashtags and all the things that you use are going to help people find you. And you can also, you can find me on Yelp, you can find me on Google, and it takes time. You have to set up accounts to do all of that. And I don't really promote myself on them, but I just set up a page. And now if somebody goes to Yelp and types in calligrapher, my name should pop up. So doing a lot of that, it takes a lot of time, and it still does. I'm doing it all the time still, but definitely worth it in the end. And that's how you get your name out there beyond just word of mouth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, like you said, that does take a lot of time because, even with me having a part-time photography, I'm really only on Facebook because I get enough business, right? But if I was to ever go full-time, that would be a huge thing, is having that website that's very relevant in a, kind of more of a saturated, industry. But still, it's one of those things where, especially if you're going to reach outside of Muscatine, reach outside of Iowa and be doing, things for weddings in Hawaii or wherever, you're doing them, which you guys need to look at Amanda's Facebook and Instagram, because she just does some really cool things and it's really cool to see. But yeah, so that it's needless to say that word of mouth and that marketing, about who and being in those groups. And I think that that's super beneficial, whether it's, somebody reached out to you on Instagram that kind of want to do that business coaching, but being in with all those other people and being in a community over competition mindset, I feel like is huge for small business, right?
Yeah.
And it's hard when, you got to get out of that mindset of, it's not you're choosing me or this calligrapher. It's like, what are you specializing in?
Right.
She didn't specialize in illustration, right? So she came to you. So that's, building that community, being able to, you can't put me down because I'm just trying to build you up type mindset, I feel like is super, super important for sure. I would say, so that kind of went into my other question of like finding clients and getting people outside of Muscatine. I say the only other, thing is, like you said earlier, you have to be the CEO, the designer, the marketer, all those things. So like, how did you learn to navigate not just the fun stuff, right? So you love to do projects for people, and maybe like make a cool thing for your Instagram, stuff like that. But like, what about the books? What about, all the like not fun stuff like that, being able to navigate that and making sure that's a huge part of it, right? And that's super important. And that's how you continue to grow in your business and know you're not losing money at the end of the year. So just maybe talk a little bit about that, and how you figured out how to prioritize that.
And that was part of my decision to step back from school a little bit, because when I have the time that I have, I really only wanted to do the fun stuff from the projects, and I wasn't finding or having a good balance of, no, I need to sit down and print out all my invoices and that type of thing, and work on the SEO and work on my website and update pictures. That's not really something I enjoy doing. Luckily, I can do it myself. Some people have to farm that out, but there's people on Thumbtack to do that for you, and farm things out that you don't like to do if you can. For instance, I have an Etsy page. Etsy works completely different than anything else. And my main goal is to sell stuff from my website. I want people to go to my website and purchase from me directly. But there's advantages to having an Etsy page. I hired somebody from a website called Fiverr, and I pay a very, very minimal amount a month. It's like $19 a month for her to keep my Etsy updated for me. I send her new art or new designs, and she writes the listing. She does all of that. So find out what you're good at. If you're not good at money and books, find somebody that is, or find a software that's really going to help you, like QuickBooks. I learned pretty quickly QuickBooks wasn't going to work for me. I didn't need all the features that it offered. Square is great for me. So finding the things that help you with your business. Another thing was, I took my business from just a small business and then I made it into an LLC. So of course my taxes were a little bit more complicated and those types of things, but with all the time and the money and the mileage and everything. And tax wise, I think it's important to take the step to do an LLC or however a C Corp or whatever, or S Corp you want to do. There is a balance. It's very difficult. And I still have on the last 4 days on my list is like letters from Elliott invoices. Like I need to do it. So as a self-proclaimed procrastinator, that's not always easy, but knowing that I'm doing what I love and how lucky, I feel really lucky to be doing what I'm doing. And so lucky that I have the flexibility in my day to, sleep in like I talked about, and in the summer, hang out with my friends before I go to work, that kind of thing. So really the balance is there. It's not always easy. Find help, find people that are good at things. And you don't have to be an expert in everything to be a successful business owner. Not at all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like Erica, who introduced herself, she's the Mary Makery. She gives private lessons and classes and various handicrafts, things like that. She put in here in our chat, I'm daunted by the logistics of figuring out requirements legally, like registering a business name, etc. I'm stuck in the imposter syndrome mindset that says I'm probably not going to get enough students, earn enough anyways. Should I really try and figure out the legal things? Curious about the aspects of jumping from hobby to a hustle. So maybe Amanda, you can talk on that a little bit more, but also Erica, you should know that thankfully there's this amazing resource called the Iowa Center for Economic Success that can help you do those things. So we do have classes in Always Ready Business Plan, Always Ready Financials, a whole business plan class that I'll plug here in a minute. But we also have business coaches that can just walk you through little things of getting in, registering as an LLC, getting your EIN number, opening a business bank account, all those things, whether in Des Moines, Muscatine, anywhere in Iowa, we can help with those things. So just so you know, Erica, we are able to do that. Maybe Amanda can talk on how she kind of figured out those logistic things, but just know the Iowa Center is literally here for that. So we can get you connected with our classes and coaches too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, using resources such as the Iowa Center, using everything you possibly can. I talked to other entrepreneurs. Of course, I had my business coach and my business group to bounce ideas off of. All of them, luckily in Iowa, it's very easy and very cheap to open an LLC or to register your business that way. I believe I paid less than $1,000. I think it was about $800 total. And that was my and I hired LegalZoom to do it. So through them, they did all the paperwork. I was just kind of in the background. I am not an expert in that at all, but when you open an LLC or do some of that legal side, it's a protection. And an LLC, I chose to do an LLC versus anything else because it separates you completely from your personal financials. So my business and my personal are completely separate. And if somebody were to sue Letters from Elliott, they cannot take from me personally. So that was a big one for me. But there's different ways that you can register your business. Having a tax ID number is huge. That's opened, like for the wholesale websites I subscribe to, I had to have a tax ID number to do that. I wasn't able to do it before that. So it's not easy. It can be really daunting. Definitely use any resources you have available to you. LegalZoom was very easy. Super user-friendly for somebody who does not know legalese at all. And they send constant reminders, like if I need to update something or whatever, they're kind of on top of that for me. So that's really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. So Erica, I will definitely reach out to you so that and we can kind of get going on not only your business plan, but those kinds of daunting tasks that somebody else is going to know more about, right? And kind of what Amanda said is taking in every resource you can. So, you know, we've got different coaches within the Iowa Center that can help you with different things. Maybe, you know, we've got expertise in different areas, but one thing I always tell clients that we meet with is you can't get dumber. You know, like you can't, by talking to the Iowa Center, by reaching out to your local Chamber of Commerce, all these different connections you're making. Amanda just said for the last, you know, 45 minutes, connections is the biggest way to grow your business, to take your hobby to a hustle, if you will. And that's one of the biggest things is you can't get dumber from reaching out to more people. You know, and one thing that one of our pillars at the Iowa Center is networking, right? So if we can't help you with this specific thing, or, you know, have a really niche like topic or, you know, thing you need help with, odds are we know somebody, right? That whether it's in Des Moines or Muscatine that can help you with those things, and connecting you to more resources. Cause again, you can't get dumber from utilizing all you can. So I think that's kind of the biggest thing. So if anybody has any more questions, you can put them in the chat and I can get them over to Amanda. But if not, I'll go ahead and kind of wrap it up, talk about our upcoming class. Thank you so much, Amanda.
Thank you so
guys
much for having me.
Yes, you absolutely have to look up Letters from Elliott on Facebook, Instagram, look at her website, look at everything, because she does amazing work. So I'm so glad you agreed to do this because I not only love the things you do, you know, and personally just love you, but
And
you've
it's all
been
about
able
who you
to-
know. I got this
Yeah.
stuff because I know Jordan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I just think this was a really cool one. You were the first person that came to mind when they asked to do the first small business essentials from Muscatine, because you took such a unique hobby, you know, and you've grown it into something big. And you guys have listened to her talk about the different places she's done, the cool, you know, big things that she's engraving whiskey bottles and stuff. And she started, you know, making the menu for the Coffee Belt, a coffee shop here in town. So it's just like growing that into that and knowing how big your potential is. It's so cool to have you from Muscatine too, because for those of you that don't know, the Iowa Center just expanded to an extension office in Muscatine. This is it. It's me. And it doesn't matter whether you're in a big city or a small town like Muscatine. If you put in the work and, you know, like Amanda said, you know your worth, you can do whatever you want. So thank you, Amanda. Reach out to her at Letters from Elliott for any and all calligraphy work. And I just want to take a minute, Erica, this one would be for you too, to talk about our upcoming big business plan class, which is called Dream Maker. It starts on September 8th. There is a fee associated and we can get you some more information, but Dream Maker is our signature like big class. So it's 8 weeks long. It's a business planning course that really takes you in depth. Will help you understand the ins and outs of owning and operating a business in Iowa. So not only will you be able to create a thoughtful business plan specific to you and what your goals are, but you'll be able to work with subject matter experts throughout Iowa that have established small businesses of their own. And also you'll have a cohort of peers, kind of like Amanda was talking about with her fellow calligraphers, who are going to be able to provide you support as you build the foundation to launch your own business. So if you'd like more information, you can check out our website. It's www.theiowacenter.org. That's got all of our classes on it. You'll be able to schedule an appointment with me there, either Sierra or I. We're both the client services coordinators for the Iowa Center. So with that, I will leave you with a piece of advice, and that is love what you do and do what you love, because your potential is unending. So thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you, everybody. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.